Hey guys, thanks for joining in. I'm Jason, and I'm really super excited to have a dear friend and colleague with me, Dr. Wathall. So,
Please
did I
call
say
me
that right?
Jenny.
Jenny, Dr.
Please call
Ginny.
me Jenny. Yeah.
Dr. Ginny. And as you can see, she's on a ferry in Hong Kong, so that's good stuff. So
Beautiful sunny day.
it's been absolutely gorgeous there. No AQI at all. So we're just wanting to talk a little bit about professional development and how what the state of it is now and that kind of thing. But before we get into that, Ginny, could you tell us a little bit about who you are, kind of your journey through being an educator and then being an educator of educators? And I just would really love to hear about that.
Sure. And thank you so much, Jason, for having me on this podcast. I really hope that people will have some insights and, people will have some takeaways after listening to our chat today. I was actually really lucky. I was a classroom teacher for 27 years.
Oh, wow.
I taught 10 to 18-year-olds, and I loved every minute. I think I learned a lot. I evolved a lot as a classroom practitioner, and it was a difficult decision for me to actually leave the classroom because I'm a teacher at heart. So when I do travel around and engage in professional development opportunities with different schools, I really welcome the opportunity to be in the classroom and to co-teach and just to hang out with the students and see those light bulb moments. So I did leave a couple of years ago the classroom full-time, and I now teach part-time at the University of Hong Kong for the Faculty of Education. And now my master's students are giving me so much satisfaction, and we are holding virtual classes, and we're holding a virtual practicum. So they're practicing their teaching in the online environment.
Oh, wow.
And so I still get to see those light bulb moments and be part of my students' journey in their learning.
That's fantastic. It's great to talk to other passionate educators. So it's so nice to hear your story. And most of your career, all of your career, how much of it has been in Hong Kong?
Most of it, actually.
Yeah.
I was on a secondment. I was so fortunate to go on a secondment and work in New York at the United Nations School. Yeah.
Okay.
So one of the original IB schools, and that was such a wonderful experience. My heart goes out to everyone in New York at the moment because I know that they're going through a very challenging and difficult time. I've been in touch with friends there, and I loved my secondment year. And then I think, most of my career really has been in Hong Kong, and then internationally, I think we met at IB conferences and workshops.
We have, absolutely,
right?
Lots of times, absolutely.
Yes,
Yeah,
so
it's a small world.
it is, and as IB workshop leaders, we get to actually meet a lot of wonderful educators in our region. As you know, I'm a field rep, so that's kind of the best professional development that I receive when I pop into IB workshop leaders workshops, and I learn so many fantastic engaging strategies for adult learners and for teachers. And so that's another part of my role that I really enjoy.
Yeah, I know. I've been a field rep for a couple of years now too, and it's just so enriching to see that how other people do things, and it's also great to broaden your scope, because as a single subject person, sometimes it's nice to go into a subject you're not used to teaching and seeing how that's delivered and how they work with other adult learners. And
exactly.
I totally agree with you.
It's such a privilege, I think, and an honor that we get to do that, Jason, right? Like that is a lot of my professional learning, I would say, seeing other workshop leaders and their engaging strategies.
Absolutely. Yeah, I completely agree with you. And you also do some other stuff. I know you're in Hong Kong, the University of Hong Kong, for part-time, but what else do you do? I know that you travel quite a bit and work with other people.
I did.
Tell us, you did well until the last few weeks. But,
Yes.
but what sort of things have you been doing?
So schools and I partner up, and we engage in a lot of curriculum development, professional learning, and normally school partnerships last between 3 to 5 years.
Oh, wow.
And
Okay.
sometimes it's across all discipline areas. So we look at concept-based curriculum and instruction and developing units and curriculum and developing pedagogical principles that actually teach for deep conceptual understanding. But my specialty area, as we all have one, is maths. And that's been quite rewarding too, to try and help departments and faculties around the world with their mathematics curriculum, and trying to move away from that rote memorization of algorithms and facts in mathematics, and trying to really showcase the creativity, the beauty, and helping students understand the why in mathematics. So most of my partnerships are either in developing mathematics curriculum or developing all subjects across the board from kindergarten to grade 12.
Wow.
So we start with 3-year-olds and we look at their curriculum and what experiences we can design that focus on deep conceptual understanding, all the way up to grade 12, 18-year-olds. I'm fortunate enough to be able to have these partnerships with different places around the world, different continents. So I actually get to learn quite a lot from our collaborations as well about different systems.
Yeah, I know you were just at my school last semester, and you know, the feedback that I heard from the teachers was really fantastic. And I purposely spoke to the math teachers in the upper school or the high school because I wanted to kind of hear what their take was, because it's so hard to move away from traditional math teaching to more of a conceptual based math teaching.
Exactly.
And they felt, especially more some of the folks who've been teaching a longer period of time, were very much enlightened. So you're doing great work.
That warms my heart, Jason. You don't know how that warms my heart.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's great. I mean, they really were really pleased to have you there, and we hope that we can continue partnerships with you at some point later on, or whenever it is.
That'd be wonderful. That would be wonderful.
Be great. And so, but I know that that's kind of at the moment on hold. It seems like, are you doing some remote work with schools, or is that kind of in the back burner at the moment?
I think initially when schools were in that firefighting survive stage, I call it, right? So I have this framework of e-learning adoption, and there are 4 stages. I think you've seen it. So we start off with, so we start off with the survive, then we go for strive, and they're the first 2 stages basically. And after that, hopefully we're thriving, and then we actually arrive. So when schools initially closed in the survive stage, I think it was quite challenging to think about any professional learning or curriculum development. And it really was a firefighting, deciding LMS systems, deciding digital tools. But I feel like that many schools are at this stage where they are now ready for some professional learning that's relevant to the online environment in particular. And so I'm really fortunate again that schools have come with me on this journey. We were face to face with lots of physical visits, and now we're moving into the virtual online professional learning area. So I have a beautiful partnership with a school down in Indonesia, and we've decided that the focus maybe is not to develop a maths curriculum at the moment, that we really need to be helping teachers with their pedagogy in terms of online learning, engaging their students, motivating their students. How can we actually really cater to all the needs of our students in a blended, I'm going to call it a blended rather than online, because I'm going to be advocating for a blended environment for our students. And so we decided that we're going to run weekly 2-hour sessions, sometimes.
Wow.
That's based on a needs analysis as well. So whatever the school needs at the time, and we're going to run all subject areas and focus on online learning and the blended learning environment and frameworks that we know will really be effective and engage students. Because the feedback that I've gotten actually from lots of teachers around the world, they say after about 2 or 3 weeks, their students become less motivated and less engaged. Have you found that, Jason?
Absolutely.
Like
we found that the first week, actually, we felt students were more engaged than they would even be in person. And then it has been a slow and steady decline since then. And I think there has to be a mixture of asynchronous and synchronous instruction. I think completely. That the more screen time is not necessarily a good thing, and I think the more we can add variety and choice to what we're doing with our students, I think it's going to be it's going to be critical. Especially a lot of schools are in a holding pattern indefinitely at this point, and something you said earlier, it reminds me of a quote I saw online just this week saying, "This isn't online teaching. This is emergency distance learning." And I thought that's a big difference, because there are folks who do online learning and teaching as a profession, and I've taken online courses, and as adults, it's a challenge for adults to do this. So I can only imagine a 6-year-old or a 14-year-old having to go through this and not having their friend network and not having recess and not having time with their friends at lunch. It's just, and teachers too. We like our friends too, right? Our colleagues. And that community feel, it's really, really hard. Schools are doing virtual pub nights and doing virtual trivia nights and things like that. So thanks to Zoom for allowing us to do those kinds of things. It's been an invaluable tool. But I think we found the engagement has definitely declined to a certain extent.
Yeah, and I think that's probably, I saw the same post, Jason, actually, and I thought it was so astute. And I'm going to create, I think it's given me some inspiration to create some resources about the difference. It's not emergency remote learning that we're trying to be facilitating. We're trying to look at best practices, research and frameworks that we know work in a blended environment. And then we're trying to design experiences for our students that actually showcase, research and best practices.
Absolutely.
And I think, and at the beginning, maybe we just weren't ready for that because some of us were just thrust into the situation. I know in Hong Kong, people were on their Chinese New Year holiday and then told that there was no preparation.
You can't come back.
No, and teachers sometimes didn't have their devices, even.
That's
so, through no fault of our own, we're in this situation. So now I think we're moving towards that thrive and arrive stage where we really want to think about pedagogy. We want to think about how we're going to enhance learning and the online experience for our students to keep them highly motivated and highly engaged. I think that's the stage that we're up to, and it's a natural and normal stage to reach. Yeah,
absolutely. I agree with you. And that's great because that really segues into what I wanted to really talk to you about, because I like this idea, this process, this process and stages. It's almost like that. I don't know if you ever heard of the trough of disillusionment, this whole curve. It's fantastic. I'll send you a podcast about it. But it's all about the stages of new technology is what that one was about. But I could actually probably parallel it with this, where it starts in a kind of a honeymoon stage, which dies out very quickly. And then you hit to a point where you're almost in a pit of despair is actually what they call it. The pit of despair. And I don't know if that's what you want to call it, but it feels that way, that you feel really disconnected. You feel very blue, very down. And you're having to constantly talk into a computer, and you may not get any feedback, any stimulus that way. And so, the question I have for you, and you already kind of started talking about it, is what do you see the next step in professional development for teachers as this continues on? Because I think I've heard a lot of people say that this situation is going to change teaching forever. It will definitely change it in the near future and the foreseeable future. So what do you kind of see as how we move forward with this in professional development, at least?
So you've picked up you've brought up so many important ideas that I'm going to address first. I want to create a movement, Jason. I want to create a global movement Hashtag is transform pedagogy, transform learning.
Okay.
So let's start a movement together that we're
right.
going to really try and, transform what learning looks like for our students, even when we go back to the brick and mortar. So regardless of whether we're online indefinitely or not, let's try and really transform what education looks like globally because of this. So let's take this as an opportunity. That's how I see it. Now, in terms of professional development, I am so fortunate. I delivered 5 days of face-to-face synchronous PD in Melbourne recently. And I
Yes.
thought it couldn't be done before. We all were skeptical. How can you have the interaction? How can you have the discussions? How can you have that constructivist approach as well, the social constructivist approach? And it can be done. It seriously can be done. I think it is, I'm going to say the word almost. I'm going to use the word, it is almost the same as being in the physical environment with a group of people. So because we have this wonderful tool, Zoom, that has so many functionalities, I think that we can have a mixture of asynchronous and synchronous professional development. I'm recommending that for the blended environment that we include the synchronous, just like for our students, we need to have some touch points with our students and our participants. We need to be able to, as humans, connect with other humans and communicate and see your faces, right?
That's right. That's
and be able to, have some lighthearted moments and to share our experiences as well, which is what we did this morning. So I ran this 1-hour formative assessment online in the online environment. And, it was wonderful just to connect with educators from Mexico, from North America, including Canada, from Europe. It was 4 a.m. for them. So I'm so grateful that they joined us. And then we had a lot of people from Asia Pacific. And it was 1 hour of human connection, interaction, discussions as well. And so I think for the future, I used to run 2-day face-to-face brick and mortar professional development. I think a 2-day face-to-face synchronous online virtual professional development will be almost exactly the same in terms of engagement. And so I think that there is a model for that to be able to be introduced and adopted. I also think that the blending the two, so two-day face-to-face synchronous, that can move into perhaps twice a week synchronous with some asynchronous work over maybe a period of 2 weeks. This could also look like once a week, 2 hours, for a period of, let's say, 4 to 6 weeks, so that it's a little bit more manageable, because I know that teachers are working so hard at the moment to try and design and create online experiences for their students. So maybe a full 2 days out is just not feasible at all. So I think some kind of, it can start with a 2-day face-to-face synchronous and move all the way to a 6-week asynchronous and synchronous learning experience in terms of professional development. So anywhere between those kind of, those two boundaries. I think.
It sounds really exciting. And I can't help but think about, you and I have been involved in IB professional development for many, many years. And, the online courses versus the face-to-face. And then even some in North America that I ran were blended. So it was a 2-day workshop, but you had to do 2 hours either before or after as asynchronous. And so it was always a challenge because teachers are busy, right? And that kind of thing. But I think we will be better equipped as teachers to not only be good students, but also to be good facilitators of that kind of material, where in the past people were just kind of thrown into it, but there wasn't a lot of stakes. But now the stakes are raised, and I think it will allow us to do that a lot better. And I do think that we will be adopting more flipped classroom type, methods with our students. I also think there's going to be teachers who retire after this because they're not ready for this. Maybe they were kind of hanging around waiting, and this might be too much. And unfortunately, that may be one of the things that we may lose some really very, very good teachers out of it as well.
Yes.
But I
Yes.
do think that of all the professions at the moment, teaching's pretty stable. There's a lot of
Yes.
folks who are not in that same position. So I feel very
Yes.
fortunate that we're able to continue working even during this
Yes.
time, which not everybody can do.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
I think it's important to be, to try to think of things to be grateful for every
Mm,
day in this
mm,
climate, right? There was something,
absolutely.
Jason, that you
Hmm.
mentioned, and it was, it's reminded me of a really important point that
Hmm.
I think in the old days, an online face-to-face synchronous would consist of a lecture or a webinar.
Hmm.
Now, if
Hmm.
we're going to be lecturing and holding webinars, which is basically the teacher talking for an hour, I do not think our students will be motivated or engaged. And
That's
so
exactly
now
right.
we've got to, it's right.
That's
So now
right.
we've got to
Yeah.
think about, it's not holding a
Mm,
webinar or a
mhm,
lecture. It's about how do we actually still promote group work and
mhm,
collaboration with our breakout rooms? How do we actually formatively assess learning
mm,
as we're actually holding any synchronous or asynchronous lessons, right? And
right.
learning. So it's rethinking. So I'm going to remind everyone, global movement, transform pedagogy, transform learning.
That's it. I'll make sure that we get that on the show notes as well. Don't worry. It'll be
Excellent,
part of it.
excellent,
Absolutely. And I think
excellent.
that's great. I mean, I feel that there's been this undertow that's changed, that, the
Mm,
wave comes in and then it has to go back out. And I feel like the undertow that's underneath that wave is starting to catch people in a good way
yeah.
and a bad way, but a lot of good
Mm,
things are coming out. I was reading an article in the New York Times just this morning about how the internet has
mm.
become a nice place. It's become a much kinder place, at least on social
Yes,
media, because of this, that
yes,
people need some hope. And I think,
yes.
it even just yesterday, I was having a conversation saying, or even last week, that Twitter used to be kind of this black hole of stuff,
Mm,
right? And a
yeah,
lot of teachers are taking it up and using it as their professional learning network,
that's
and
right.
it's
Yeah.
been really, really strong to do that. And I've been really fortunate to have some great people such as yourself to follow and to, learn from. And people
Likewise.
are, oh, thank you. People are sharing freely,
Yeah,
and
that's
I
right.
think of so many places where people are sharing. And now what's happening is folks in North America, as that wave of all these cases have hit there, and now
That's
they're on
right.
online learning. They're now where we were in Asia six or eight
Exactly.
weeks ago. And so now what's happened,
Exactly.
we can help share with them. That's part of the
Yes.
reason for this podcast, is just to think about
Yeah.
how can we give back our experience to help others,
Mm,
maybe make it just slightly easier, just a little bit easier
yeah.
than it would have been without it. So that's
Yeah.
definitely where I see us going. And I think your vision for professional development is fantastic. I think it's necessary. I think it's needed.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think that it
Thank you.
will it will blow out all those cobwebs and get things really, moving in the right moving in the right direction, we hope. And
Yes.
and people are becoming a lot more technologically competent over this time, and
Yes.
because they're having
That's
to,
right.
it's necessary. And so, but I
And
really
that
like what
and
you're
that
headed. Sorry, go
And I
ahead.
think that's a sense of achievement. I
Mm,
was going to say that's a sense of
mm,
achievement to people when they
mm,
do learn about new technology.
mhm,
And I'm going to just bring your point, Jason, of
mm,
trying to pay forward and trying
mhm,
to, it's an act of kindness to try and help teachers around the world with
mhm,
these very short podcasts that hopefully our
mm,
teachers will have takeaways from. And
absolutely.
so you're actually uniting humanity through your
Mm.
kindness, which I
As are
think is
you.
so important.
I mean, you've got folks at 4 a.m. getting up to listen to you, so they'd be part of your movement. So
I'm
that's
so honored. I'm
fantastic.
so grateful.
So thinking about social media and things like that, who are some folks that you follow and you interact with that other people should also take notice of?
Well, besides you, of course,
Oh,
Jason.
you're way too kind, Ginny.
I was thinking, Jennifer Gonzalez, Cult of
Mm,
Pedagogy.
mhm.
Who doesn't follow
Ah,
her?
she's great. Absolutely.
She's phenomenal. And the
Mm,
things that she's been releasing recently and
mhm,
even over the years, I
mhm.
still use. You know, she
Right.
released something years ago, so forward thinking on
Mm,
inductive teaching, that I
mhm,
still use in my workshops to
mhm,
help students, to help my teachers understand
mm,
what that is. So I would say definitely Cult of
mm,
Pedagogy. Big shout out to you,
mhm,
Jennifer Gonzalez.
mhm.
And this, I think it was a few months ago, I got a follow from her and I just was celebrating. I
Oh, wow.
know
That's
I got a
fantastic.
follow from her.
So impressive.
Exactly. Yeah, I was really
Yeah.
impressed. I was so happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
she's definitely
definitely.
edu-famous for sure. That's
Yeah,
I would be fanboying
definitely.
out over that for sure.
Me too.
So I skipped over something I didn't mean to, but and I don't know if now is a good time to talk about the books that you've published or not. But I know that you were were you part of the most recent update with the maths DP updates?
Yes, I was.
Hmm.
Yeah. So I was very honored to be part of the curriculum review group that
Hmm.
just released a new maths curriculum for
Hmm.
diploma program.
Hmm.
And there is more of a conceptual theme and strand
Hmm.
running through the
Hmm.
whole program. So it's actually very exciting. All the courses have been completely changed.
Hmm.
And I'm hoping that the main goal was really not about the topics, the actual topics of
Hmm.
mathematics, but
Hmm.
trying to encourage a change in pedagogy.
Hmm.
So if
Hmm.
we're hoping that with the new DP maths courses,
Hmm.
teachers are going to be adopting more inquiry-based learning with the
Hmm.
30-hour toolkit
Hmm.
time that's been
Hmm.
given to them,
Hmm.
and they're going to be teaching for more conceptual understanding, and they're going to be addressing just those approaches to teaching in the
Hmm.
IB that they
Hmm.
recommend, you know, and
Hmm.
have more space and time to do that. So
Hmm.
I'm pretty excited. I am looking forward to hearing
Hmm.
feedback about
Hmm.
how the classroom learning
Right.
is going and evolving and
Hmm.
changing because
Hmm.
of it, I hope.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was a field rep at one of the workshops where there were lots of the subject specific seminars.
Right.
So there were a lot of people there, a lot of experienced math teachers, and I was hearing good
Yes.
things. That's been a
Good.
little while ago now, but I was hearing good things. So, but only time will tell. I'm sure it's great because with
Yes.
each iteration we learn more things and learn new things,
Exactly.
and then again, as you say,
Exactly.
pay it forward and use our experience to hopefully help the newer teachers.
Exactly.
To move
Yes.
through
And
that.
I have to give a shout out to the IB. They're
Mhm,
so forward thinking and
mhm,
so progressive. I work with
mhm,
a lot of different national curricula around the
mhm,
world, and the IB are so research based in their progressive
mhm,
development of their curriculum. And I don't know if you probably did see
mhm,
the 12 to 14 page document that they released on online teaching
mhm, mhm.
recently to help
Yes.
everyone. They're just,
Mhm,
so if other systems can learn
mhm,
about the pedagogical principles, the
mhm.
approaches to learning skills that we're trying to develop with our students and teachers, then I think that would be, great. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I just always
Mm.
enjoy talking with you, especially about maths, which has not always been my favorite subject. So that's good that I love to see your passion because you either love it or hate it, right? There's not really middle ground for mathematics, but in my opinion.
Well, I'm trying to change
I
that,
know you are.
obviously.
I'm sure there's another hashtag in there that we could get going on that. And I know we've talked about Zoom and we've talked about some of the other things. What are some like books and apps and websites that you would recommend for folks, especially during this time, thinking about
Okay.
growing,
This
developing as a professional? Oh, you can look at your notes.
no,
Look
I'm
around.
looking for the book.
Oh,
Yeah, it's
okay.
here.
Okay.
It's underneath my teacup. That's why. Let me get it. I've got this is one that I actually have
Okay.
not mentioned publicly yet,
Okay.
but it is my go-to. It is my
Okay.
number one go-to, and
Okay.
hopefully you can see it. The virtual
Uh,
environment. I think.
oh,
Oh, okay.
if you
I'll
put it
just
right
read.
in front of yourself.
Okay. Did I hear? How about
Just
that?
pull it
No,
back a
it's
little
not
bit right in front
happening.
of your face. It should work.
Really? How's that?
Yeah.
Oh, there
That's
we
perfect. Yeah, there
go.
we go.
This is an
eLearning
excellent book.
Ecologies. Oh, that's great.
Exactly. It's
Okay.
eLearning Ecologies, Principles for New Learning and
Mm,
Assessment
okay.
by Cope and Calantzis.
Okay.
And so I'll put a link. I'll send you
That
a
would be
link as
great.
well.
That would be great.
And this is really about pedagogy.
Okay.
What kind of in pedagogy can we encourage, and what the e-learning ecology affordances are in terms of our transformation of pedagogy. See, I got it in there again.
There it is. I love it. That's great. Keep saying it. Keep saying it. I love it.
And so this is my go-to. This really is my go-to book. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Completely.
Fantastic.
And probably released more recently. So 2014, 2017. First
great.
Published 2017. So something that's a little more current as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm sure that should be part of everyone's professional library, especially now, because
now.
I'm telling you, the conversations I've had have changed so much in the last 6 to 8 weeks, from just general, teaching and pedagogy type things to more about true deep learning, true conceptual understanding, because it's amazing when you have a short or compressed timeline, you have to cut through all the fluff and you have to get to what's important into the meat. And I think that's one of the things we're going to see is just cutting away. Now, I think activities are important. I think being part of a community and collaborating and things in person is very important. It's part of the learning process. But I think when we're talking about a compressed, short, here's your 15, 20 minutes, you get rid of all those things and you get to the heart of it. And I think that's fantastic. I love that book. I'm going to have to get that myself. But
there's one more. Now that you mentioned the deep learning, I just got Michael Fullan's new book, Deep Learning, Pedagogies. Yep. And that's pretty good. That's fantastic. That's a fantastic read as well. And so I'll send you the link to that one.
That would be great. I'll make sure to include that for all of our 4 listeners. So that
so you, me, and 2 others.
Me and my wife listens twice. So it's
we have to have humor, don't we?
Absolutely.
We've got to have some humor every day.
Well, and most teachers, they're very human connections. They're very into, and they may not necessarily all be extroverted, but that human connection is one reason people go into teaching, is that they're constantly in connection with humans. So it's like, really it's torturous to put an extrovert and human, people who need that emotional stimulus from folks. It's out the window, and so it's we've been quite lucky because most of the folks at my school live in 2 compounds, and so we're at least able to see one another kind of in passing or whatever. But it's still not the same, obviously. But we at least have that we can get that human contact if we really want it, within the acceptable social distancing rules. But
yes. But some teachers I know in China have been isolated for months and haven't had human contact, which is so sad. So it is important, I think, that we do have that. My friends know me, and you know me, Jason. I'm an extrovert, I think, right? I'm undeniably.
I know the feeling.
And so people have been checking in because there's been memes going around saying, please check on your extrovert friends. That's right. And so people have been checking in on me, which is so kind and so lovely, because we do suffer more because we need that human connection.
Absolutely. It's part of what energizes us. And when you don't have it, you feel quite mundane and blue, and you're like, why am I feeling this way? But it's because you haven't had that variety of contact that you would have, even just in the hallway or getting a cup of coffee or tea. It's really necessary. And so I think the new reality that we're discussing, though, will be a blend of that, using just narrowing down what's important to focus on, but also still having that human contact, hopefully. We'll see.
Beautiful. I couldn't agree more.
Jenny, thank you so much. You have been such a gracious guest, and I really appreciate you being here. And I wish you all the best of success, and please stay healthy and safe there in Hong Kong.
Thank you. No, thank you so much, Jason. I wish you the best health as well for you and your family.
All right.
And thank you for inviting me on this podcast. It was the highlight of my day.
Oh my gosh. Of my day. Oh, wow. That's I have a lot to live up to. That's very humbling. Thank you so much.